Take a few minutes to look at your car's mirrors and plastic trims in a new way. Small scratches on mirrors and plastic caused by a light tap while reversing or brushing against another car may seem harmless, but they make your car look worn. Many people are willing to spend hundreds of dollars just to replace a mirror cover. In reality, there's a trick that costs less than $2 to restore the surface, almost like new, a secret most auto shops won't share. The key ingredient: carbon from a used 1.5-volt battery. When finely ground and mixed with liquid adhesive, it forms a strong bonding layer that fills scratches, matches the color, and smooths the surface. With proper surface preparation, light sanding, and a coat of paint if needed, the results are striking. Cheap solutions on the market only temporarily mask scratches. They don't fix the root problem. Knowing the right method helps you save money, maintain your car's value, and avoid unnecessary replacement of small but important parts. User pain points. No matter how careful you are, mirrors and plastic trims are easily scratched during everyday use. Sometimes it's just a moment of distraction while reversing, a minor bump from a neighboring car, or parking too close to a wall enough to create small but noticeable scratches. These scratches rarely affect the functionality of mirrors or trims, but aesthetically they make the surface look rough, breaking the original smooth and glossy appearance. A prominent white scratch on a black plastic trim under sunlight can instantly feel unpleasant every time you look at your car. Technically, the plastic surface and paint layer contain polymers and stabilizers. When impacted, the surface layer is scratched and polymer chains break, locally forming micro grooves. These scratches don't immediately affect function, but make the surface uneven, increase friction, and attract dust, making the car age faster visually. Many people tend to replace a part just because of a small scratch. I've seen it myself, a scratch only a few centimeters long on a mirror cover, yet the shop quoted $120 to replace it. In reality, the surface can be fully restored with the right approach. What seems like just a few small scratches can have a repair shop immediately quoting $100 for a part that could be restored for only $2. The key point is not every scratch requires replacement. Most are shallow scratches affecting only the surface. With the right techniques, you can smooth the surface, fill polymer grooves, and match the color without spending hundreds on new parts or expensive repair kits. A car owner using a simple method, properly preparing the surface and applying the right materials, can almost completely diminish scratches 5 to 7 centimeters long at a fraction of the cost of replacement. Scratches aren't just an aesthetic annoyance. Understanding the material's mechanism and knowing the correct way to handle them is the real way to save money, protect your car, and avoid wasteful spending. The wisdom of a car owner isn't measured by how much they spend, it's in understanding the true value of a repair. Once you understand how scratches form, you'll realize a little-known trick can fix them at an extremely low cost. Remove scratches for $2. Next, take a look at a material that most people throw away without realizing its true value. A used 1.5-volt battery. On the outside, it's just a plastic and metal casing. Inside, it hides a carbon core, a fine black solid with remarkable physical properties, perfect for restoring scratched plastic surfaces. Chemically, carbon is a stable, durable element with excellent adhesion to plastic polymers when finely ground and combined with the right adhesive. When this carbon layer fills the scratch grooves, it reconnects the polymer chains in the plastic, creating a smooth, nearly original color-matched surface. The liquid adhesive acts like concrete, holding the carbon in place and bonding it firmly to the plastic, making the scratch virtually disappear. Total cost under $2, a used battery and a small bottle of superglue. A tiny amount compared to replacing a plastic trim or buying an expensive repair kit, yet the result is outstanding: a smooth, color-matched, long-lasting surface. Simple yet scientific. Remove the battery casing and discard any remaining electrolyte. Grind the carbon core into an ultra-fine powder. The smaller the particles, the better the bond with the plastic. Mix the carbon powder with a liquid adhesive. When applied to a scratch, the carbon acts as the reinforcement and the glue acts as the concrete. Let it dry and lightly sand the surface, then spray a thin coat of paint if needed to perfect the color. Just a small amount of carbon powder is enough to patch a scratch several centimeters long on a mirror. The plastic surface is restored almost to its original state. The scratch grooves are visibly diminished, and the overall appearance of the car remains unaffected. A material that seems like waste when used correctly not only saves money and protects the plastic surface for the long term, but also reduces negative environmental impact. This $2 miracle is proof of smart and scientific reuse turning waste into a real solution. But before you handle this little miracle, I need you to understand, restoration is not a quick patch. It's a process that requires meticulous attention, starting from proper material preparation. The art of grinding carbon, where chemistry speaks. Don't underestimate it. Safety comes first before handling any materials. Even a used battery contains electrolyte compounds that can be harmful to the skin. Always wear gloves before touching it. Repairs are meant to enjoy the results, not to risk your health. Here's a surprising detail. Use pliers to remove the steel casing of a 1.5-volt battery, revealing the protective membrane and the jet black carbon core inside. This core is the heart of the process. Remove any impurities and leftover electrolyte before moving to the next step. Place the carbon core in a small mortar and grind it evenly by hand until it becomes a velvety fine powder. The science behind it, the finer the powder, the better. It penetrates the tiny grooves on the plastic surface, forming a dense contact network. A simple but critical principle: fine powder, strong bond. This meticulous step determines the final result. When superglue is dropped onto the carbon powder, a reaction occurs instantly. The carbon acts both as reinforcement and as a catalyst, creating a tightly cross-linked polymer chain. This is no ordinary glue, it becomes a form of chemical plastic welding. This structure is strong, heat-resistant, and solvent-resistant, comparable to the original plastic of the car mirror. The moment the glue meets the carbon powder, the scratch almost disappears before your eyes. You see 99% of the effect immediately, no long waits or complicated steps required. In fact, this is a technique used in heavy industrial repair where people need to compensate for defective metal or plastic parts while maintaining structural strength. Look closely, you're not just filling a scratch. You're restructuring the plastic surface, restoring it almost to its original state, thanks to material knowledge and precise handling. Once the materials are prepared and the carbon powder reaches optimal fineness, we move on to the main treatment phase where the true effectiveness of this method starts to show on the plastic surface. Processing procedure: restructuring the plastic surface. No clean, no bond. The first principle: the surface must be completely clean. Plastic surfaces often accumulate road dust grease and polishing wax from previous washes. Skip this step and the carbon powder will just slide over the surface, failing to integrate with the structure. Wipe thoroughly until the plastic is dry and slightly tacky to the touch. This is when the plastic molecules are ready to accept the new material. Look closely at every groove. The next step is filling the structure. Sprinkle ultrafine carbon powder into the scratches. The fine powder penetrates tiny crevices, almost invisible to the naked eye. Add drops of superglue gradually. Instantly, the powder absorbs the glue, darkens, and hardens. The principal carbon is the skeleton, glue is the adhesive. Without carbon, the glue is brittle. Without glue, the carbon is just dust. When combined correctly, they form a durable mass nearly uniform with the original plastic. One wrong step and the entire structure collapses. Be careful, don't rush by pouring too much glue, air bubbles will form, breaking the bond. Work in thin layers. The final step: sand, flat, and finish. The sound of wet sandpaper caressing the plastic surface. Use 800 grit wet sandpaper to level out bumps, then 2000 grit to achieve a finish almost like new plastic. The water washes away excess powder, leaving a flat, smooth surface. This is a crucial scientific step. Sanding to the correct roughness allows the carbon glue polymer network to fully integrate, enhancing both mechanical strength and aesthetics. You see, this is the moment when the $2 solution starts to completely outshine the $100 repair bill out there. A gentle touch and the magic begins. Running your hand over the surface, there's no longer any waviness. The scratch has vanished. The surface is smooth and even. The effect is immediate, obvious, and scientific. You're preserving your car's value and proving that sometimes wisdom and careful attention keep money in your wallet. By this step, I bet you've forgotten that you once considered spending $100 on a new mirror cover. But wait just a bit longer, because next I'll show you the true power of the $2 solution as it takes on its final coat. Finishing touch, where the invisible speaks. At this stage, the plastic surface has achieved near-perfect mechanical flatness. Why tiny micro rough points haven't fully matched in terms of refractive index. But truthfully, from an optical perspective, color and light reflection, it's not yet fully consistent with the rest of the mirror. Those ultra-fine sanding marks scatter light, making our eyes perceive a dull gray instead of the deep black of the original plastic. To achieve optimal results, a thin protective coating is needed. This isn't just a simple color coat. It acts as a light refracting layer, evening out how light reflects across the surface, so the eye cannot distinguish between the original plastic and the part rebuilt with carbon and glue. Once the paint dries, it locks in the polymer network underneath, enhances mechanical strength, protects against UV, minimizes environmental impacts like rain dust and chemicals. The result: the scratch is embedded within the new structure. It's not just a shiny surface, the plastic material itself is effectively restored. Exactly. Under high-intensity light, the marks from the previous impact are completely gone with no signs of damage. The same mirror, no replacement, no expensive tools required. A small trick that repair shops hope you never learn, because they would lose the $100 bill you otherwise would have paid. All of this is achieved with $2 compared to the $100 a shop might charge for the same service. This is the perfect combination of material knowledge, meticulous skill, and experimental science, not just a low cost. Money can buy materials, but it can't buy the right mixing ratio, the precise powder application, the correct sanding pressure, or the proper waiting time. These small details make the difference between a surface that's merely shiny and one that is truly restructured. I'm sharing this secret not so you recklessly try everything, but so you can become a wise car owner. In some cases, carbon powder and super glue are lifesavers, but in others, stubbornness can end up costing you far more than the initial $120. Limits, building credibility. First of all, it's important to recognize this method is not a magical miracle. Understanding its limits is the most important thing. Remember, this is not magic. This is controlled repair. Every technique has its own red lines that should not be crossed. Ignoring them can lead not only to poor results, but also to potential hazards. The method of using carbon powder combined with superglue works wonderfully for small scratches on black or matte plastic surfaces. This technique is not for the impatient or uninformed. It works instantly if done correctly, something many repair shops would rather you not attempt at home. But there are two cases you must absolutely avoid. The first, when a scratch is deep enough to reach the metal core or load-bearing structure. The plastic layer is completely torn, exposing metal, leaving no surface for the carbon powder to bond to. Filling the surface in this case is only a temporary fix. It cannot restore the safety or mechanical integrity of the component. The surface may look good, but the underlying structure is compromised. The second case, I want to mention large areas of flaking paint. Carbon only acts as a filler for scratch grooves. When a large paint section is missing, the surface bonding structure is completely destroyed. Carbon powder cannot restore uniform color or aesthetic consistency. Applying it in this scenario would only create a dark patch on a lighter paint background. On light-colored cars like white silver or gold, carbon powder will stand out if not covered with a color-matched touch-up paint. In such cases, the painting step is mandatory to unify the surface. Do not stubbornly apply this trick to severe damage. Ignoring these limits can quickly increase costs. What starts as a $2 fix can escalate to $120 or more if you insist on repairing it incorrectly. A skilled technician doesn't just know how to repair, they also know when to stop and say, "This part needs replacement," to ensure safety. Understanding the limits not only protects the car, but also demonstrates true credibility. Science and meticulousness are the two factors that create real value. Cost-cutting or rushing cannot replace them. You came here looking for a quick $2 trick. But what you gain is much more the ability to take control of your own car. Scratches don't heal themselves, wear and tear continues, and expensive replacement bills aren't negotiable. But you know how to restore the plastic surface control polymer reactions and preserve the real value of your vehicle. Don't rush to spend on replacement parts when your own hands can achieve a lasting repair. Choose wisdom, patience, and skill, because the strongest car is the one you understand down to every component.